Hello, welcome to our EV Ready Building session discussing obtaining quotes and finding an electrician. This video aims to help anyone interested in preparing their building for EVs understand the steps needed to find a suitable installer and what to look for when comparing quotes. I'm joined by David Levine, who has gone through this process in his own building, Ross Durango, an electrical engineer with specific EV experience, and Scott McLaren, an electrician and EV charging infrastructure installer. Ross, I'll start with you. How can buildings go about finding the electricians and the contractors they're going to need to install the infrastructure?
EV charging in a building is a relatively new field of endeavour. There are several electrical contractors and businesses in the community that are doing this work as their bread and butter, and there's more that are entering the space every day, every month, every year. One way that a building could go about it would be to talk to other buildings like theirs, reach out to other owners' corporations whom you know or who you've met through shared contacts and through industry events, and ask them who they used and how they went about it. Owners Corporation Network, as an industry peak body, has a lot of reach into organisations of this nature. The Electric Vehicle Council has lists of organisations on its website that can be useful. And the New South Wales Government has excellent resources on its EV Ready Buildings page that can help people find a suitable person to do this sort of work.
Great, thank you. And David, how did you go about finding an electrician for your building?
There were essentially three sources that we used. The first one came out of the EV readiness assessment that we did. The consultant supplied us with several names, both for shared charging infrastructure and for full building EV readiness. I think, as Ross just mentioned, the EV Ready Buildings website provided some wonderful resources, and we also spoke to some other buildings who had completed installation.
Great. And in terms, Scott, of people when they are asking electricians to quote on the work that needs to be done, what can they ask electricians to do so they get apples to apples comparisons?
The short answer is they can't. It's a bit of a minefield in that sense, where we're very much in the infancy of EVs in apartment complexes, but there's so many different systems, so many different approaches out there. Level 1 charging versus level 2 charging, shared charging, wired backbones. I think the key here, if you really want to get close to an apples with apples type scenario, is that there's a missing piece of the puzzle that comes before that. So when we go through feasibility studies, work out what options may be available, generally speaking, there'll be 2 or 3 different options in there. And I think the starting point is to select which option is favourable for the building and the owners corporation, right? I also think that from there has to be, and I don't know the answer to it yet, there's the missing piece of the puzzle there of laying out exactly how that looks in the building, exactly what infrastructure is going to be laid, exactly what billing software is going to be used, what load management system is going to be used, what chargers are going to be selected in the building. And I think unless you have that as a baseline, you can never really get an apples with apples comparison. But you can get fairly close to it by, first of all, letting your electrician know exactly which option from your feasibility study that you want to go with. And then it's just open communication, going back and forward until you find a bit of a consensus there.
And Ross, what kind of qualifications did the installers have?
So for the installation work, the qualification requirements are pretty clear. This is electrical work and it's licensed as electrical work. In order to do this kind of work in New South Wales Fair Trading is the relevant licensing body. It's got to be a Sparky to do it. The consulting work is perhaps a little looser. There's not as much restriction around who is allowed to consult. So with respect to selecting a consultant to support your building through the process, the guidance would be talk to owners corporations who've gone down this road before you, speak to them about who they used and whether they were happy with those folks.
That makes sense. And what kind of insurances should these installers have?
Again, electrical work is fairly standard. People have been doing electrical work in this country for a very long time. Typically, public liability insurance is standard. If the installer doing the work is also managing their own lines of product, they may have product liability as well.
Right.
I think another important part of that puzzle that I was just referencing as well is As it stands at the moment, the design element typically falls back on the electrical contractor as well. And I think it's important for electrical contractors to understand their obligations when they're designing electrical work, and perhaps having some indemnity around about that aspect of it as well.
And I guess that then leads back to how can they ensure that their contractor is reputable?
So ensuring that the contractor is reputable, again, is more a matter of what is their prior track record? How have they engaged with other businesses in the past? How have they been reviewed? Again, it comes to, if you're looking to select between 1 or 2 or 3 different options, talk to people who have used that service provider before.
Okay.
I also don't think it's unreasonable. In fact, it's been fairly common from my standpoint for owners corporations to be invited into other buildings and projects that have been past completed by the electrical contractor. It's certainly something that I encourage, because that's social proof, right? That gives you a really good understanding of whether they're capable and whether you're going to be a good fit to work with them as well. A large part of this is the relationship between the electrical contractor and the owners corporation. How well can they communicate? How well can they understand each other? Because if you can get that stuff right, then it's going to make it a hell of a lot easier in the long run.
I think there's a general point there. I agree with you. The people and the businesses who are good at doing something are likely to have a track record of happy customers.
Yep.
If you're seeking to engage someone and you're not sure about what to do in a new area, find someone who has a track record of happy customers.
Absolutely.
And in terms of safety, how did you manage that for your installation?
The building manager basically ensured that everybody had all the relevant certifications, and we just followed the process from there. So not much to do on our side. Yeah.
And do you recall if your contractors offered a fixed price?
Yes, in both cases. Remember, we have 2 different solutions, one shared charging and one backbone infrastructure. Yes, they were both fixed prices. At the same time, when we got quotes, the prices varied massively, significantly. So it was quite difficult at the end to come down to apples and apples, as Scott was saying.
And did you have multiple contractors that were working on projects?
Yes, because there were essentially 2 projects, just for that reason. In addition to that, we did get a telco consultant because we needed to do some building work for the communications.
Okay. If you received multiple quotes, did they offer a similar solution?
For the most part, the solutions offered were fairly similar. The big difference came down to the sort of cabling used, but in essence, having a number of distribution boards servicing the area, certain tray work and certain cabling, they were fairly close. We did add into the mix the addition of a CT meter. So this is a meter which measures outgoing electricity from your board. And we did that in order just to validate that all the billing in the future would be absolutely correct. Nobody offered that, which I think was a pity. I think it should have been offered anyway, but we've installed it.
And as part of your installations, were any communications needed as well?
Just to a few owners who were impacted because their vehicles were going to sit under infrastructure.
So if a building receives multiple quotes, how do they go about making the best decision for them?
Sure. So in the case of EV charging, there are many ways to peel the vegetable. There's not one fixed way that it is the perfect way to do it for every building of a particular type. You can also expect that different service providers will have different supply arrangements, different profit structures, different plans on how they're going to make their business thrive. So it can be expected that a building will receive varying quotes for very similar pieces of work, and they will also receive quotes that vary in the nature of what is being proposed. Now, in some cases, the owners corporation might have people in that group who know how to assess those project proposals and have an understanding of where the differences are. In other cases, the owners corporation committee might not have those skills. The suggestion there would be that the same consultant that was used to do the upfront feasibility work could readily be retained to help the owners corporation committee go through the proposals and work through which of these is actually going to meet our needs and our intent.
Yeah.
Again, it comes back to find someone who's expert and leverage their expertise.
I think a large part of that as well, and falling short of retaining a consultant, a workaround for that would be just having open lines of communication with the contractors and asking really smart questions and asking them the same questions and seeing what answers you get back. Generally speaking, the contractors that are willing to answer those questions and have those conversations with you, for the most part, are probably going to be providing more value to you. So it comes away from the price point now and more down to, right, the two systems sitting side by side at face value look the same, but what benefits do each of them provide you for the longevity of this program? Because at the moment we're talking about implementing the backbone, right? But we want to make sure that backbone can withstand the weight that we're going to put on it over the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Might also be worth thinking about different financial ownership structures. So one way for work of this nature to be funded is the owner's corporation pays for all the equipment upfront at time of installation. An alternative approach, which has been in strata for a long time, is embedded networks. And there are businesses who are looking at EV charging on the basis of paying for all of the upfront equipment and then having a contract over a period of time with the building as the service provider performing that work, and that's how they make their money. This sort of area is still being explored, still being worked through, but the fact that one organisation might be proposing to sell the installation of the equipment and then they're done, whereas another is proposing to supply a pile of equipment that they own for a long period of time and are making rent from, will make proposals look very, very different.
Yeah.
And it will then be down to the owner's corporation to work out which of those proposals works best for them.
Very interesting approach.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much.